When these two surfers set out on their surfing trip, they had no idea about the crazy adventure that awaited them. They expected large waves and a lack of tourists, but instead, they found this seemingly abandoned ship stranded in the water just before the shore. It looked emptied out, almost like some sort of abandoned ghost ship. But then, black smoke rose from its chimney. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Dylan and Mason had been waiting for this trip all season. This secret beach wasn't on any tourist map, and only dedicated surfers knew the hidden trail that led there. Strong currents and rough rocks kept most people away. It felt wild and pure, a place they could claim for themselves. They expected wild waves, no tourists, and an awesome adventure. But nothing like this. While scanning the waterline, Mason froze and nudged Dylan hard while pointing to the horizon. A dark column of smoke rose straight into the morning sky, strong and steady, without any sign of drifting away. Both surfers grabbed their boards and started running down the beach. But there was a problem. A massive cliff jutted out into the water, blocking any clear view beyond it. The two men stopped at its base, staring up at the steep rock face. They had to move to the other side of this rock wall to see what was going on, but there was no road or easy path circled this cliff. The sharp wall stretched directly into the sea, making it impossible to pass around with a car. Dylan and Mason were both strong climbers, used to scaling rough surfaces when exploring hidden surf spots. Without saying a word, they dropped their surfboards into the water and planned their climb upward. Without saying a word, they checked their grip on the stone and started the climb. Hand over hand, they pulled themselves higher. Loose pebbles rattled down into the surf far below. Even though the wind picked up, both men stayed focused, their muscles trained and prepared for moments like this. Mason climbed above, scanning each new handhold with careful focus. Below them, the water crashed quietly, hiding the boards now floating beyond sight. Every muscle in their bodies burned from the effort, but they were so close now they could almost taste it. Finally, they crawled over the top edge and dropped to their knees, breathing hard. Dylan stood slowly and stepped toward the far side of the ridge, bracing himself for what he might see. The thick, black smoke had stopped by this point, but what they saw next was even more intriguing. As they peered down, they saw a massive cruise ship sat stranded just beyond the rocks, towering above the shallow waves. Its white sides looked stained and empty, and no sign of life moved on the decks. "Do you think it's abandoned?" Mason asked. Dylan didn't know, but it sure looked like it wasn't supposed to be there. The ship also looked roughened up, with wide scratch marks all over its side, like it hit something sharp. The fact that it also showed no signs of life was another giveaway. They scanned the drop-down and spotted a small hidden beach tucked below the cliff. Their boards had already landed there, resting safely on the sand. They began the careful climb down, eager to reach the shore. When they finally stepped onto the beach, they grabbed their boards and turned toward the ocean, staring at the giant vessel. Mason whispered, "What is it doing there?" It would have been best for the two men to just leave the scene. They could have called the police and kept themselves out of harm's way. Normal people would act this way. "All right, let's do it," Mason finally said. They paddled toward the ship side by side, each stroke sending ripples into the glassy sea. The closer they got, the bigger it became. Up close, it was even more massive than they'd thought. On the ship's lower port side, they spotted what they hoped to find a dangling ladder partially submerged in the water. "Jackpot," Dylan said. "Guess this is our way up." They stopped paddling and drifted beneath it. The metal was slick with sea mist. Barnacles clung to the lower rungs like stubborn passengers, but it appeared the only way up, leaving them little choice. Mason reached up and tugged at the lowest rung. It creaked but held firm. "Feels solid enough," he said. Dylan tapped the hull with his knuckles, almost like he was hoping for someone to knock back from the inside, which was a silly thought. But both men had no idea yet what was in store for them inside this mysterious vessel. But it would change their lives forever. Both men secured their boards to the rope hooks on their backs, fastening them like elongated backpacks. Then Dylan grabbed the rung and pulled himself up, 1 foot at a time. Mason followed close behind. The ocean rocked gently below them as they climbed in silence. Neither said it out loud, but they felt it whatever was on that ship, it creeped them out a bit. Dylan's hands gripped the final rung, and with one last pull, he hoisted himself onto the top deck, soaked in sea mist and sweat. Mason followed seconds later, rolling to his feet beside him. They both took in the eerie stillness. The deck was empty. Lifeboats hung neatly on the side, and the sunbeds on deck looked like they were waiting for people to sit in them. "Hello?" Mason called again. His voice rang across the open space, but nothing answered. No footsteps, no doors creaking, no voices, just the distant caw of gulls circling above. Dylan cupped his hands to his mouth and shouted, "2," this time louder. "Is anybody here? We're not here to hurt you," but again, only silence echoed back at them like a warning. They left their surfboard behind on the deck and started moving. Most doors were sealed. Some had broken keypads, others were locked from inside. "We're not getting in without breaking something," Mason said, trying one last door. Dylan walked further, scanning. He stopped at a maintenance hatch near the wall. The hatch was old but intact. Its handle was stuck, but together they forced it open. A narrow staircase spiraled downward. "Not exactly a welcome mat," Mason muttered. Dylan turned on his phone flashlight. "Guess this is it." They ducked and stepped inside. The air changed warmer, humid, stale. Their footsteps echoed on the metal stairs. The corridor below had closed cabin doors. Some bore nameplates, others were scratched out. A toppled suitcase spilled its contents nearby. "Someone left in a hurry," Dylan murmured. They moved deeper. The ship felt wrong. Overturned chairs, food trays on carts, crusted with mold. Dylan estimated the time passed by how decayed the food was. The answer, a long, long time. "I don't like this," Mason whispered. Dylan nodded. Their initial excitement drained. The place felt abandoned, but not naturally. "Whatever happened to these people, I can't blame them for leaving," Dylan said. With every turn, it felt less like an adventure, more like a warning. There were no signs of a struggling, blood, or chaos, just silence and an unnatural emptiness. Their flashlights cast long, shivering shadows on the walls. Eventually, they reached a wider hallway-likely part of the crew section. A duty roster hung beside a framed certificate. RMS Horizon, sailed from New York to Lisbon, Dylan read, mid-June. Mason did the math. Nearly 3 months ago. A laminated map bolted nearby showed the ship's full layout. Dylan pointed to the back. "Here, engine room, rear, lowest level." "If smoke's coming from the chimney, someone might be there," Mason said. "Let's go." They descended level by level. The deeper they went, the hotter it got. Condensation covered pipes. Machinery hummed faintly. Still, no people-only echoes and the sound of dripping water. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed. Mason flinched. Dylan bent down and picked up a heavy bolt. "Just a loose part," he said. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Mason muttered. But it wasn't just sound sit was the feeling. Like the ship had eyes. The red emergency lights flickered. Power was out, but something felt alive. "Do you feel that?" Mason asked. Dylan stopped. "Yeah, like we're being watched." They stood still, silence, then humming. They reached the final staircase. At the bottom, the engine room. "You hear that?" Dylan asked. A metallic clang echoed from below. Mason shone his lightered glow, thick steam. Then a black shadow moved past the opening. It lasted barely a second, but they both saw it. "Something is moving down there," Dylan whispered. The air grew thicker, almost toxic. Breathing felt like inhaling smoke. The engine room was alive, but not in the way they hoped. Steam hissed from cracked pipes. A blinking red alarm light cast an eerie glow. It felt like hell's waiting room. Machines groaned, hidden by fog. Visibility was minimal, but the sense of presence was undeniable. Dylan took a cautious step. "There!" Mason hissed. A shape darted between turbines quick and silent. "Someone's here," Dylan whispered. Mason raised his voice. "Hello, we mean you no harm. Come forward so we can see you." No answer, no footsteps, just the groan of machinery and the hiss of steam. From behind the turbines, a figure stepped forward, hands raised, face pale. Dylan and Mason froze. "Don't be afraid," the man said. He moved into the red light, a tired face, graying beard. "I'm Captain Ross, of this ship." "You've been here this whole time?" Mason asked. Ross nodded. "Not just me. Follow me." He led them toward a steel door behind the engine pipes. "The others are safe," Ross said. "We've been surviving in the food storage room." Ross knocked twice, then 3 times. A crewman opened the door. Warm light poured out. Inside were 20 people wrapped in blankets, seated on crates. They looked up, eyes wide. "They came from shore?" someone asked in disbelief. "They made it through the water?" a woman whispered. "We paddled from the beach," Mason replied. The group stirred hopeful and emotional. One man wiped tears. "We thought no one would ever find us." Dylan scanned their worn faces, tired but alive. They had endured the unimaginable. Ross sat them on a bench near stacked canned goods. "It's time you knew the truth," he began. "It started 5 days out from Lisbon. Winds picked up, then turned into a hurricane. The storm trapped us. It didn't move. It just pounded the ship waves, lightning, black water, for weeks. We tried everything – radios, flares, rafts – nothing worked. Some tried to swim," Ross said, 6 of them. The ocean took them. After that, we sealed off the ship, rationed supplies, and stayed alive." Mason whispered, "How long?" 93 days, Ross said. "Last night was the first calm night since we crashed." "We didn't know if it was over. We were afraid to leave," Dylan asked. "The smoke was that you?" Ross nodded. "We got the auxiliary system running. It's powered by a generator. We needed to heat food. The smoke came from the exhaust." "No haunting," Mason said. "Just survival." Ross gave a tired smile. "There's been enough horror without ghosts." Dylan stood. "We can help you leave." "The water's calm now," Mason added. "We paddle daily. The ship's blocking the worst of it. It's safe." "You think we could make it?" someone asked. "We'll go in shifts," Dylan said. "Strong swimmers first. We'll tow others on surfboards." Ross looked around. "We'll do it. Together." Murmurs of hope spread. That afternoon, under gray skies, the first group slipped into the water. The strongest swam with determination. Others clung to boards, led carefully by Dylan and Mason. One by one, they reached the shore barefoot, breathless, overcome. Captain Ross followed last, whispering, "We made it." The last survivors were helped ashore. Some collapsed, others wept. One man kissed the ground. Emergency crews were on their way. But for now, the storm was behind them, and solid land was beneath their feet. A week later, newspapers reported on the ghost ship that wasn't a ghost. Families reunited. The RMS Horizon would be studied for years, but for Dylan and Mason, what mattered most was this. They had found something extraordinary and brought 20 lives back from the edge of being forgotten forever.